Hello and welcome back to Before Our Friends Die. You are joined by me, Kavan, and this is a very special bonus episode where we get to know our guest from last week, Tommy. So you may know Tommy from the social work episode, but now we're going to get to know his other job, a charity he founded, and we're also going to ask him, of course, the same 6 questions we ask all of our guests so you can get to know them as well. So without further ado, let's go. Tommy, so really appreciate you joining us for the last episode on social work. But you mentioned you were part-time. So I want to give you this stage now, I suppose, to talk about what it is you do in your spare time, shall we say.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for having me back. I think basically at the moment I'm 3 days a week as a social worker, but then 2 days a week I run my social enterprise called InsideUni. And basically the idea behind InsideUni is that some children are applying to university with big support networks around them. They're at a really good school.
Yeah.
They've got teachers who know how it works. They've got people who have been the year before them who they can ask how it works. And they've got all of that kind of word of mouth insider information. And then obviously most children are not applying with all of that information and knowledge. And so what we're really trying to do with InsideUni is get all of that word of mouth insider information from students who have successfully been through the process themselves, crowdsource that by collecting it from them, moderating it to make sure that it's really actually useful and it's not just people kind of saying their misconceptions about stuff, spreading full information about it, and then putting it online for free so that everyone can have that kind of information regardless of what background they're from or the kind of networks they've got around them. So that's what we've been doing at InsideUni. It started quite specific across Oxford and Cambridge, and then it's expanded out from there. So we're currently expanding it to all the medical schools as well, which is an exciting development for us. And we've had about 3,000 students contribute so far in terms of all of their information and experiences and advice. And we've been used about 750,000 times.
Wow.
I think at the last count, about 85,000 users. So we've managed to get like a decent spread. Weirdly, I think that it was across maybe 156 countries as well. So we've got a good
Global.
Good reach. Global, absolutely. So yeah, it's gone well so far. And it's, I think, basically trying to harness kind of the power of that student community and giving that back to students who are about to go through that process themselves.
That's amazing. I mean, first of all, props to you, because doing a social work job part-time is enough for anyone, enough social justice for anyone. To then go ahead and build your own social enterprise about supporting those into university is incredible. So well done. A few things that spring to mind then, I suppose. So as you know, I work in a university as well, and my main role is about access and participation. And every university has a access and participation plan, and the backbone of that plan is usually a theory of change which is informed by academic capital, so i.e. having the academic skill to get into university, social capital, again, networks, that ability to be able to maybe I don't know, your family's gone to university and you can get some advice on your personal statement, or you have a really good relationship with your teacher who can write you a great reference. Those levels of social capital. And then cultural capital, i.e. knowing what you're getting yourself in for and being able to navigate that space effectively to get the best out of the experience. That's what the APP tries to address. It sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. 750,000 times usage by 85,000 people across 156 countries is insane, and really altruistic. So before I get to your motivations, I'd like to sort of elucidate it for the listeners a little bit. What sort of form does it take? When I was going to university a few years ago now, the student room was a thing, that might still be, but it was about forums. Like, we're going through forums and reading all these long threads about, I don't know, what's the best card to get, or what's the, do I get the rail card or do I get the overdraft? Which one do I do? All those sort of questions. What does InsideUni look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should mention student room, because I'm not going to criticize it too much, because I'm sure there are good parts of the student room.
I'm sure there are, yeah.
I definitely remember when I was applying, ending up on student room and finding myself on threads from like 2008 with something written by someone with a weird username and an even weird username picture thing.
Red flag.
Like, exactly, being like, I don't know, I got 400 million A stars at GCSE and I got rejected by everywhere. And like, you get this kind of like ridiculous long thread that is kind of hard to navigate. You don't necessarily find the information that you want. And most importantly, when you do find the information, there is absolutely nothing to say it's going to be reliable, because it could be written by anyone.
Yeah.
And most likely it was probably written by an 8-year-old messing around in an IT lesson. So I think like, yeah, that's kind of, I guess, the problem that we're coming up against. I guess in terms of what InsideUni is like, it's trying to harness the fact that actually people want stuff that's written by students who have been through what they've been through. That's why Student Room is so popular, because it's relatable and you're listening to people who have been through it the year before you, whatever it is. So trying to like maintain that relatability but also be really reliable. So the form of the project is actually a website. So it's a website, InsideUni.org. Get that plug in there.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
I think what the form that it takes is that we've got different types of student written content. So we've got a lot of content that focuses on interview processes in particular. And so what it was like to go through that process, the kinds of things that you talked about, even just like the physicality of being there in the room, what it feels like, what it looks like, all those kind of things, which unless you've spoken to someone, you're then walking into that for the first time otherwise. So it's just as important on that kind of, like you say, the cultural side of it almost as it is on the academic side of it, as knowing what to expect when you're walking into those kind of things. And we've also got lots of student written guides across different subjects and different courses, which are basically like collections of resources and advice that we've gathered from students who are currently studying those subjects at university about things that they found really useful when they're applying. And so it's kind of like that curated student content that otherwise you're going to have to scroll through all these threads for and all this kind of stuff, but it's just curated by students in one place. And then the final stuff we do is like video content. So getting panels of students from different backgrounds or from different geographical locations, or even who have been studying like different subjects, to speak about what they've gone through to get there, what it was like, their advice in retrospect. And they often are YouTube live events originally. So we've got like questions coming in that they're answering with which hopefully solves lots of people's kind of FAQs about what happens. So they're the kind of three main styles of content. And it's on a free website that anyone can access.
And just a reminder, that website is
InsideUni.org.
Love
Thanks
that.
very much.
No problem at all. I mean, like I said to you before, this show, Before Our Friends Die, is all about having conversations we want to have before we leave this planet. Sometimes those conversations are urgent and they really need to be had, but also it's about finding people who have done what we want to do and finding out how they did it. InsideUni.org is that, students sharing their experiences. And I think it's really, really important that it comes from the horse's mouth, so to speak, for students by students. A couple of things I want to pick up on. So my brother, he's studying to be a dentist right now in Leeds. How do students get involved? If he wanted to get involved and contribute to Inside Uni, how would he do that?
Yeah, well, the both good and the bad part of this is, the good part of this is it's going really well, so we're expanding. The bad part of it is that we haven't yet expanded that far. So as I said, we started with Oxford and Cambridge, and we're currently going to all the medical schools. The next step after that is going to be lots of other universities and courses. And actually, dentistry is one that we were really thinking about, because it's got all of those additional steps above and beyond the normal processes.
Yeah.
So basically, the types of processes that we're looking to focus on are ones where they're especially complicated as well. So you've got like an extra interview or an extra admissions test or all these kind of things. Obviously, we want to get everywhere eventually.
Yeah.
Might take some time. So at the moment, my advice to him would be to hold tight and to watch this space, because we'll hopefully be coming that way before too long. But if you go on our website, InsideUni.org, to get that in there again, there's also a Get Involved page as well.
Love that.
We're, especially when we're crowdsourcing some of that information, that's where we start that process. So I definitely recommend people to go on there and see if we've covered what they're doing by the time they go on there.
Dentistry is a long course. It's about 5 years, I think. So I'm sure at some point during that degree, he'll be able to go on to InsideUni.org and get some information about how he can get involved. So yeah, fantastic. I'll let him know to reach out. So Tommy, thank you, first of all, for sharing your social work experience and then the Inside Uni experience with us as well. The questions that the listeners want you to answer now are quite random, but they give you a great insight. Sorry, they give them a great insight into who you are. So the first question, Tommy, is who is the richest person in your phone book?
Wow, now that is a good question. The richest person in my phone book. God, that's going to be quite a boring question to ask a 25-year-old who's a social worker who's just out of the thing.
FYI, you don't have to say who they are, but what they do would be useful.
Yes, yeah. The richest person in my phone book. Do you know what? It might well be. So, like I was talking about in the other podcast, before I went into social work, I did some work in politics and policy, and so I've met a few interesting politicians and people like that. And I would say I probably shouldn't say exactly who, but I would say that some of them are likely to be some of the richer ones, whether for good or for bad, getting the money in those kind of ways. But I was lucky enough to kind of meet people like that before going into social work, and I would say that some of them have probably not done too badly for themselves.
I think we've had a range of people on here who have given us a range of richest people in their phone book. I don't think we've ever had a politician, so that's a first on the network. I mean, immediately I'm thinking of Matt Hancock, who was just on I'm a Celeb, so I'm thinking he's got a nice fat check some way, somehow. The PM is incredibly rich. Say that again, Tommy?
I wish I had his phone number because it would be interesting to send him some particular messages, but no, I don't.
Get stuck in. All right, who has the most potential that you know?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know what? I'll probably go for one of the children I'm working with at the moment. He's a really, really talented young rapper. And even though I think there's things going on in his life which are on the negative side of things, he's got this amazing thing going for him. He's really, really good. He's already getting a lot of listens and a lot of traction. And I think he could go all the way. And it's really exciting. And so, he's already doing really good. I won't say exactly who it is. I don't want to give that away, but I'm sure you'll hear of him one day. And it's really exciting. And I think that's a great part of the social work job, is that you're meeting people like that who, even in difficult circumstances, you kind of get a feeling that they're going to go a long way. So, I would go for him.
Love that. That's a real wholesome answer. I mean, again, you read my mind. I didn't want to ask, and I won't ask because of safeguarding. But we love music. We love music, so we want to get stuck in. But we'll leave that one there. And good luck to whoever it is. Who is the most influential person you know, Tommy? And just to give you some context, that can be someone who's influential to you directly that you know personally, or it could be, someone who is influential to you but you don't know them personally.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, there's so many people I could pick from, but probably one of the people who's influenced me the most directly with what I've done is actually my dad, because he started his own business when he was younger. Not in anything related to what I'm doing. It was more in construction and roofs. So it's a completely different world. But I think he kind of showed me that was a route that you could take, and doing something a bit unconventional and trying that entrepreneurial route. And I guess showing that was something that was possible and like a route that could be taken, because I don't know, I guess probably I was usually thinking about something like a more conventional route to go down. And I think seeing that that's possible quite close to home, as I think sometimes what it takes to give you the confidence to do it, because it's definitely a scary thing starting out on your own and doing something different and trying to create something new. But I think that was definitely really influential, seeing him take that risk when I was younger, and it being something that worked and meant that also he was around a lot when I was growing up, which was really nice because he can in that way. So it had a lot of impact on me, I think, and something that I've definitely taken into doing my own thing as well.
100%. I completely agree with the importance of positive role models. And there is a saying, isn't there, if you can see it you can be it. And obviously someone somewhere has trailblazed. They've done it without seeing it. But it is really, really useful to see those who are doing what you want to do and just having that role model there. So, Tommy, the next question is, you are at your best when you are, and then you fill in the blank.
Oh, that's a good one. Uh, I'm at my best. You know what? I think one of the one of the times that I feel kind of like freest and happiest is when I'm playing music. So outside of work, I play in a band, play keyboards, um, and I think it's one of those things where because you're completely in the moment and you're just doing something kind of naturally, and it's coming from muscle memory, and you're not really thinking, and you're kind of just playing what comes to you. It's one of those very unusual moments, especially being a social worker and someone who runs my own thing, where I don't really have to think.
Yeah.
I'm doing something that's nice, and I think yeah, it's both kind of switching off and also the opposite of switching off because you're performing or you're in front of people or that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's this really unusual mix, and I didn't get to play much over the pandemic because obviously you couldn't really do gigs and you couldn't go on stages in front of people.
Yep.
And I didn't realize how much I missed it. And so yeah, I think I can definitely be at my best when I'm just kind of playing the keyboard, doing some music, and with my head not in the kind of tricky questions that might otherwise be floating around given the what I'm doing during the day.
That presence that music brings is very, very underrated and magical. It's interesting you talk about how not getting much experience over the pandemic. On the flip reverse of that, being able to play the keyboard has been a long-standing ambition of mine, and I learned a little bit over the pandemic. When I say learned a little bit, I mean I can play maybe 8 select songs. That is it. Anything outside of those 8 select ones, I can't play. But every time I venture back into it upstairs, it's an opportunity to then, like you say, be completely present. It's only when I start to think about it again that I start to mess up, and it's when I'm present that I can just free flow. Again, via those 8 same songs that my house is, I'm sure, sick of by now. It's been 2 years, but no, really, really, yeah, completely relate to that. Music is very, very powerful, and that presence that it brings is magical. So that's interesting to know. One thing you never regret doing, Tommy. Now, this question often gets misunderstood or, interpreted in many ways. This could be one major thing that you will never regret doing, or it could be one thing that you do often that you never regret when you've done it.
Yeah, that is the thing I never regret doing. To be honest, probably the main thing that I never regret doing is phoning someone instead of hiding behind a text or an email or something like that, and just speak to them, whether it be over the phone or even face to face. And to be honest, that goes at work, but also it goes for family as well, because I think that it's something where I think you always forget how good it feels to speak to someone who gets you and who you've got that relationship with, just to kind of lift your spirits and to feel good about stuff and to I don't know, get out of the headspace that you might be in otherwise. So I think it's something that I guess when you're starting out with something or where you're kind of feeling like you don't want to, it's easy to just do something behind the screen. But especially since the pandemic as well, I've noticed that I've been doing that more just by default. It's just like that. But I always forget that I should just speak to people and phone them and try and see them, and that is really the best thing. So I never regret doing that, even when it's a bit of an effort to do it.
Do you know what? This is why I love these podcasts and these questions in particular as well, because it challenges me. I've never heard that answer before, but you're right. It resonated with me, and I'm gonna try and make a few phone calls after this, because I think if you're listening to this as well, pick someone and give them a call, because that's what we want over here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? The classic question.
Yeah. I wish I had a clear answer to this one, because that would make things more simple. I mean, I'd love InsideUni to be doing really well and for that to have taken over the world.
Come on.
To have grown the team even more and for me to be running that, and that would be absolutely amazing. We already are doing that. We just brought on a new program manager, and it's been amazing just to kind of see that grow. But I guess in like a more general sense, I'd love to start using some of that practical stuff that I've learned from doing the social work and working kind of on the ground in the communities where this stuff's happening and working within the services that are often talked about, as well as kind of my experience of starting something by myself and doing something a bit more widely, to maybe see if I can have a bit more of an impact on a wider policy level and try and change some of those structures that are holding us back when it comes to doing all these things. Because I think it can be really rewarding and amazing as a job doing something like social work. But like we were speaking about in the other episode, it can also be very frustrating when you come up against those blocks that you're just so too junior in the food chain to have anything to do about. And people well above your pay grade are the ones who really need to be sorting this out. So I'd love to start to try and feed through some of my learnings really from having worked in that area and being able to have a bit more of an impact at like a policy level. I think that would be like a big ambition for me, and maybe starting to communicate in more ways like this and like that post that we talked about last time about what it actually involves in social work is a good way to start having that. So I'd love to move towards that and trying to generalize out and using some of the stuff I've done so far to make a bit of a wider impact.
Well, talking of question one, who's the richest person in your phone book, and then wanting to make an impact on policy, maybe there's a reason to reach out and call someone there, Tommy.
I think that you're exactly right. And it's, I'll ask them for a bit of money while I'm at it.
Indeed. Last question from us now. So this is going to require you to think back 10 years to who you were 10 years ago, and then what advice you now would give to them.
Yeah. So I'm 26.
Cool.
So I would have been 16.
Yep.
Just about to do my GCSEs, I guess, or like limbering up in that direction.
Yep.
So I remember being very nervous, very stressed all the time, wanting to do really well at that. And I guess, the advice I'd probably give myself looking back is that I probably could have been less stressed and uptight about those things that happen at school, and it wouldn't have mattered because I worked really, really hard at school and managed to go to a really good uni and do a really good degree in these kinds of things. Actually, all I needed to do a job that I've absolutely loved and that has taught me so much and meant that I've learned so much is a degree from anywhere in anything. And I switched and done it. And obviously I don't regret doing what I did and working the way I did, and it gave me the privilege of having lots of options, and so at least social work was then a choice. It wasn't something I was sort of forced in. I think would have made it less interesting. But I guess the form that advice takes is you can do really amazing, impactful, rewarding things regardless of where you're at right now, and it's not as difficult a change to make as you think it could be. I think like I was interested to know all of the different ways you could get into social work that I never knew of. And like I was mentioning before, some of the absolute best social workers I've worked with are people who've grown up in the area. They've not got any of the qualifications that I worked towards so hard when I was at the age of 16 10 years ago. Were living life in a very different way, not a worse way, just a very different way. And they've ended up in exactly the same position as me 10 years down the line, which is as a social worker working in those positions, doing the same things, having the same impact, if not more impact at the time. So yeah, I think I would tell myself there's lots of routes to feeling fulfilled and feeling happy and feeling like you're doing something that is impactful. And it's not always how you think it's going to look. I would never, ever, ever have said that I was going to end up as a social worker at the age of 16, and I didn't even know what one was. So little did I know how things were going to change and where I was going to end up. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
I love that. And what better way to close off than with advice like that? To just take it easy. You never know where you're going to end up, right? But keep working, keep pushing forward, and somewhere you'll be able to look back, or someday you'll be able to look back and say, 10 years ago, who'd have thunk it? On that note, Tommy, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Your time has been so generous, so really appreciate it. If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to go back in the archive and listen to Tommy's journey into social work. What's social work really about, and what has he learned along the way? Also worth noting, if you want to get in touch and share with us your thoughts, your comments, please do email akhi&saltfish@gmail.com. But also don't forget, we're on social media as well. So at Before Our Friends Die Pod on Instagram, at akhi&saltfish on Instagram and Twitter. And by all means, leave us a 5-star review. We'd love to see it. We'd love to know your comments. But also, don't forget, share this with some friends. What have you learned? What can you share? They say a problem shared is a problem halved. Well, a podcast shared is a podcast grown, and we really want to grow. So thank you so much. Take care. Have a lovely evening, and see you later.